Dear you, I'm writing to you from a version of yourself who remembers the deep, unsettling ache of feeling like you didn't belong anywhere. Not in your friendships, not in your environment, and sometimes not even in your own life. It wasn't that people rejected you. It wasn't that you were truly alone. It was something quieter, deeper, harder to explain. It was the feeling of being out of place in rooms filled with familiar faces, the feeling of smiling while wondering why you felt so disconnected, the feeling of being surrounded by people yet emotionally distant, like a ghost moving through your own days. I remember how confusing it was for you. You looked around and thought, everyone else seems to fit. Why don't I? You tried to adjust yourself. Soften here, quiet down there, pretend more confidence, hide more truth, hoping that maybe if you changed just a little, the sense of belonging would finally settle into your chest. But the more you adjusted, the less yourself you felt. And the less yourself you felt, the more alienated you became. There were moments when you wondered if something was wrong with you. You questioned whether you were too different, too quiet, too deep, too sensitive. You wondered if maybe you were hard to understand or easy to overlook, or simply not meant for the kinds of connections other people seem to find easily. You tried to ignore the ache, but loneliness has a way of speaking even when you don't want to listen. You hid it well. No one knew that you felt like an outsider in places where you were supposed to feel at home. No one knew that your silence wasn't disinterest. It was disorientation. No one knew that your distance wasn't coldness. It was self-protection. Inside, you longed for a place, a person, a moment where you could exist without adjusting yourself. A place where your presence felt natural, a place where your inner world made sense to those around you, a place where your depth wasn't too heavy and your softness wasn't too fragile. I saw how deeply you wanted to belong, not for validation, but for connection. I saw the way you tried to fold yourself into shapes that didn't fit just so you wouldn't feel alone. I saw the exhaustion of carrying a version of yourself that wasn't entirely you. None of this made you weak. It made you someone who cared deeply about finding your place in a world that often misunderstands quiet hearts. And even though you didn't know it then, that feeling of not belonging was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of something you couldn't yet see. Your past self understands now that the reason you felt like you didn't belong had nothing to do with your worth, your personality, or your ability to connect. It was because you were growing in a direction the spaces around you weren't built to accommodate. You weren't meant to belong everywhere. You weren't meant to blend in with every group. You weren't meant to fit into roles that required you to shrink, dim, or distort parts of yourself. You felt out of place because you were outgrowing places. You felt disconnected because your soul was searching for something deeper. You felt different because you were different, but in a way that was meaningful, not wrong. Belonging isn't about fitting in. It's about recognition. It's about alignment. Your past self sees now that many of the connections you tried to force were never meant to hold you. Those environments weren't rejecting you. They simply weren't your environments. Those people weren't overlooking you. They simply weren't your people. And that realization, while painful, was necessary. You also felt disconnected because you hadn't learned how to belong to yourself yet. You were searching outwardly for a sense of home that had to begin internally. When you don't fully accept your depth, your emotions, your quirks, your softness, your intensity, your quiet, your truth, you look for belonging in places that can't reflect your real self back to you. And so you felt unseen not because you were invisible, but because you weren't showing the parts of yourself that needed to be seen. You felt misunderstood, not because people didn't care, but because you weren't expressing the fullness of your heart. You felt out of place because you were trying to fit into spaces not designed for the version of you that was emerging. Your past self also understands that belonging is not a fixed location. It's a journey. It evolves as you evolve. It changes as you change. And sometimes the discomfort of not belonging is a sign that you're transitioning into a new season of your life, one that requires new environments, new connections, and a deeper sense of authenticity. You weren't meant to belong everywhere. You were meant to belong deeply, not broadly. And that kind of belonging takes time. Now I'm speaking to the you reading this, the you who still sometimes feels out of place, the you who wonders if you'll ever find your people, the you who carries a quiet hope for connection even after years of feeling misunderstood. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let this truth settle gently inside you. You are not difficult to understand. You are not too different. You are not someone who doesn't belong. You are someone who belongs deeply, meaningfully, and wholeheartedly, just not everywhere. Your people are still out there. People who will hear the emotion behind your silence. People who will understand the depth in your thoughts. People who won't be intimidated by your softness. People who will value your presence simply because you are you, and you will feel the difference immediately. You won't have to perform. You won't have to adjust. You won't have to minimize your heart to fit in. You will be seen without explaining. You will be understood without translating. You will be appreciated without effort. And before you find those people, you are learning something even more important: how to belong to yourself. You are learning to accept your depth. You are learning to honor your emotions. You are learning to embrace your uniqueness. You are learning to trust your own path. The more you belong to yourself, the easier it becomes to recognize the spaces where you truly belong. Take another slow breath. Let warmth fill the places that once felt like emptiness. Let this hope become a quiet anchor. You do belong, just not everywhere, and not with everyone, but with the right people, in the right spaces, in the right moments. You will feel a belonging so natural, so gentle, so true, that the years of feeling out of place will finally make sense. You're not lost. You're aligning. You're not excluded. You're evolving. You're not alone. You're on your way home to yourself and to those who will meet you there. Sincerely, you